Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we're up to the middle of independence. We go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. You need to know it all in order to actually to actually formulate your own opinion, and that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, May the 29th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host, of course, my name is Will, and How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we do get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means that we do only take for the most reputable sources with award-winning journalism and awards. We do not do sensational news like Fox News or The Blaze, The Daily Wire, or whatever extreme left or extreme right newscast out there. We only strive to give you the facts and nothing but the facts. With that also being said, guys, we do try to watch our language, but sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we start this? Literally and figuratively? Well, Ticketmaster, you know it, you loathe it, because between Ticketmaster and Live Nation, how else do you get to watch your favorite artists and go to your concerts? Because let's be honest, it's the only thing out there. Well, it seems Uncle Sam had its fill too of Ticketmaster, and telling Ticketmaster and Live Nation they need to split.
Department suing Ticketmaster's parent company, Live Nation, claiming the company had the monopoly in the live entertainment business. Morgan Norwood had the latest and what it means for concert ticket prices this summer. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning to you, Michael. That's right. Live Nation built itself as the largest entertainment company in the world. And for the Department of Justice, that's the problem here. Well, this morning, the company which owns Ticketmaster is accused of running a monopoly that boxes out smaller venues, squeezes consumer pockets, and hurts artists.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
It was the tour of the year. And this morning, the Department of Justice suing Live Nation and its company Ticketmaster, accusing them of operating an alleged monopoly.
It is time to break up Live Nation Ticketmaster. The American people are ready for it.
The multi-billion-dollar company, which owns or controls more than 265 venues nationwide, accused of operating by a so-called Ticketmaster tax. The lawsuit, claiming the company's flywheel strategy, captures fees and revenues from concert fans and sponsorships, pours the revenue into signing artists to exclusive promotion deals, and wields the cash of artists to sign venues into exclusive long-term ticketing deals.
This is another in a long line of cases that have seemingly been focused on consumer protection and lowering prices.
This lawsuit coming after mounting frustration from fans. The most recent meltdown saw Swifties complaining about high prices and site crashes ahead of her widely successful Eras tour.
I waited in line for like 6 hours.
But Live Nation, the owner of Ticketmaster, slamming the lawsuit, saying it won't solve the issues fans care about relating to ticket prices, service fees, and access to in-demand shows.
If you're hoping to go see a concert this summer, I certainly don't think that you're going to see any relief in ticket prices anytime in the near future.
And with that said, the lawsuit doesn't exactly lay out how the company should be broken up or how much more fans paid for tickets as the result of the alleged monopoly. But what is clear is that fans are looking for a reprieve. And with summer concerts and tours kicking off right now, it can't come fast enough.
So the problem is, and this is what I'm going to get to, that yes, Live Nation and Ticketmaster, they have a monopoly. They've been having a monopoly literally for the last going on decade now. And it's amazing that the DOJ has now said, well, we're filing an antitrust lawsuit because basically you control the prices, which they do. Because anybody that's ever bought a ticket, from Ticketmaster, you've seen all these fees that are on top of the actual ticket seating price for whatever concert that you paid for. It's ridiculous. This is why I thought when Biden was going to come out and say, we're going to stop the junk fees. I'm like, oh, perfect. Here's your biggest target. Go after Ticketmaster. They charge ridiculous junk fees, service fees, Ticketmaster taxes, revenue holding. It's ridiculous the number of fees that are on there outside of taxes and your ticket. And that is the whole entire reason why, again, I wondered, just why this is not included in Biden's junk fees hunt. Why did it take the Department of Justice nearly 10 years plus to finally sit there? And honestly, I gotta thank the Swifties. Thank you guys, because who knew how many napkins it would take for y'all to not be able to go to a Taylor Swift concert to get the government's attention and say, Ticketmaster, Ticketmaster Live Nation, you need to split. It only took a Taylor Swift tour that people are having problems getting tickets to for everybody to finally wake up. And yet Beyonce's tour, nobody says, it's all crickets, even though she should be getting the same love, but I digress. But no, from a business standpoint, this is the reason why I say it so many times, that these companies, when they get too big, it is almost as if they have this level of just, they can work how they choose to, charge how they choose to, and at the same time, nobody can say nothing. If you want to go see it, you got to pay it. And it's amazing how much ticket prices are, because wherever you sit in a concert these days, or whether it's a concert, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's a wrestling like WWE or AEW, the prices are astronomically high, because if you think about it, Ticketmaster / Live Nation is the only player in town. And again, when you're the only player in town, when you've monopolized the market that much, how is it that you're allowed to, and at the same time, how in the world are you allowed to regulate yourself? Because let's be honest, corporations that monopolize the market cannot regulate themselves. Don't believe me? Look at every gas and oil company. And again, they always claim inflation is the reason why the gas prices are so high. They can set the market. It's not just OPEC, or as most people believe, it's the president. The president doesn't set gas prices, no matter what the orange Dorito tells you. But again, it amazed me so that now Ticketmaster is finally being put under the microscope. And again, for anybody that's paid for concert tickets in the last 10 years, tell me I'm wrong. Because if you look down and you see all those fees that are down there, you tell me if you're getting screwed or not. Because I'm almost certain everybody out there is going to agree with me. That's all I'm saying. But moving on, guys, Trump himself, because yes, I tried to avoid talking about this trial. I tried to avoid it because, again, it's literally things you already know of. I mean, he's already under 91 different indictments. And this one, it's under felony payments, but, dealing with the fact of paying a former porn star on his campaign trail, and the fact that he lied about it, and the fact that this might have concluded with this might have caused some collusion with his election. Anyway, they're in deliberations now. And of course, Trump has to do his usual, when in doubt, mud up the waters and make it about him and play victim.
This morning, with his legal fate soon resting in the hands of 12, after both sides wrapped up a marathon of closing arguments.
This is a very dangerous day for America.
Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass imploring the jury to use, quote, common sense, arguing the former president conspired to corrupt the 2016 election by ordering Michael Cohen pay off Stormy Daniels so she couldn't derail his campaign. Steinglass saying, we'll never know if this effort to hoodwink the American voter in the 2016 election made a difference, but that's not something we have to prove. What prosecutors do need to prove? 34 business records, invoices, ledger entries, and check stubs were all falsified. The state highlighting these references to a legal retainer with Cohen that never existed. Lies, prosecutors say, a bogus paper trail meant to disguise the real reason Trump repaid Cohen for silencing Daniels. But Trump attorney Todd Blanche argued Cohen was Mr. Trump's attorney, so that retainer language, not false, just a word generated by accounting software, not evidence of any conspiracy orchestrated by Mr. Trump, as he was too busy running the country in 2017. Blanche urging the jury to see the state's case resting on one man, Cohen, branding him the, quote, gloat, the greatest liar of all time, telling jurors you cannot send somebody to prison based upon the lies of Michael Cohen, drawing a sharp rebuke from the judge since prison time is not required if the jury convicts, instructing them to disregard it. While outside the court, a bizarre circus-like scene, Robert De Niro clashing with Trump supporters.
We're trying to be gentlemen in this world.
You're washed up.
You are gangsters.
You're washed up.
You are gangsters.
You're washed up.
The actor joining Capitol Hill officers on hand as surrogates for President Biden. As NBC News reports, the Biden campaign tries out a new strategy, no longer shying away from calling attention to Mr. Trump's legal jeopardy.
Well, that was the wacky scene outside the courthouse. Yes. How about inside? You were there for all of those arguments. Yep. How were jurors reacting to this long day? How about Mr. Trump himself?
So they started out very alert, as usual, paying attention. They're all awake. By the end of the day, when we got to that 8 p.m. hour, some of them are twirling their hair, rubbing their faces. One lady stretches her head all the way back. You can understand these are human beings. They've been listening to these dense legal arguments. And I think the prosecution was so worried about covering the waterfront that it just went on and on. The defense was long, too. But we'll see whether they punish them for that or whether they just move past it now in deliberations.
It's a long day, and courtroom seats are not known for their comfort.
No.
Let's talk about the high points for each in terms of the argument.
I think the defense did a really effective job, essentially saying the idea that these records were falsified is, in their words, just absurd. They said the way language, which is the thing that's actually false, is a drop-down menu in the accounting software, trying to take the sting out of the idea that this was some sort of criminal conspiracy. But I also think the prosecution did an effective job trying to confront Michael Cohen's baggage, saying, look, we didn't choose him. This is someone Donald Trump chose because of the way that he lies. And so they both had high points, but it went on for a long time.
All right, Laura, thank you.
Okay, so to kind of leave a long story short, if you're wondering, at the time of our podcast started, the jury came to a decision today. Surprisingly not, so they will be deliberating further. But just to kind of just put a really quick recap on this, their evidence is there, which I never understood because again, I've never been a jury duty, knock on wood, hopefully never have to do that. But I do understand the logistics of it all, that they all have to come to an agreement. If they are deadlocked, then the case can be thrown out or rescheduled to be tried again. But this is Dorito. Almost everything this man said has been a fabricated lie. Almost everything he done has had evidence to it. And at the same time, the fact the star witness was his former fixer/attorney, which he is now saying is a liar. Yeah, but he's been around you ever since he got caught, which seems like many moons ago. And yet that was the prosecution's star witness. At the same time, if I'm on the jury, it's kind of a slam dunk because why else would these quote unquote 7 men and 5 women, which do make up the jury, somehow have to deliberate this when this should be a quick turnaround? At least I think so. But again, we're not going to dive deep into that case. We're simply going to wait for the verdict because, again, this is a felony case, which means that if he is convicted, again, this is the thing about we keep on focusing on these felony cases. If he is convicted, that disqualifies him from running for president. And again, he still has other cases in which his other lawyers, which again, if you're a lawyer for Trump, it's Christmas because his people and the RNC are paying for his legal bills, which I cannot believe I'm saying this out loud. For a former disgraced president, disgraced con man, failed businessman, how is it that you got one of the really richest political parties to which his daughter-in-law is actually co-chairman of and is using their funds along with the funds that he gets from his confused flock to pay for his legal bills? Only in America can we hope this man finally gets convicted. But the VP race seems to be heating up. Why? Basically because of Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley has sat there and said, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, that she did, quote unquote, say that she was throwing her support behind the former disgraced president known as Dorito. And of course, it's amazing where, Trump's people, again, see it like a green light and saying, she's going to be on our team. And again, I love when this comes up. That former presidential candidate Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, has said for months that she's not going to back Trump. She has said for months that Trump is not what America needs. And realizing, because I've said it many times on this podcast, there was no way on God's green earth, even her, with all her accolades, her being a woman in the GOP. And yes, that sounds sexist. It's only because that's how that party is. If you expected a white woman or a black man to leave that party, then I got some beachfront property in Ohio I want to sell you, because that's how delusional it really is. Nikki Haley realizes that, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. So what is she doing? She's softening herself up. We've seen it with Tim Scott, America's favorite Uncle Tom. We've seen it with the current Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who happened to be at his trial. They are already lining up to see if they can be Trump's VP. If he somehow skates these court dates, somehow gets quit of all these charges, and still gets the RNC nomination, he needs a VP. I don't think it'll be her because, again, this comes from a woman who sat there on her campaign run, dissed Trump to the point to where, you know what, if she sounded like she had a plan instead of repeating the same narratives that you hear on Fox News, she might have actually won the nomination. But let's be honest, Trump has systematically gotten favor of the crazy flock, and that crazy flock, along with his people in certain areas of the GOP, now including the RNC party, pretty much solidifies his hold. So again, in a way, Trump actually became the terrorist dictator he always wanted to be, just over a party. But I digress. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover the story as well as far as the action that has happened in Gaza. Of course, Israel has moved forward with military strikes in Gaza, which again, parts of Gaza. And now, keep in mind, it was just less than 2 weeks ago that I sat there and said, Mr. Anthony Blinken right there, U.S. Secretary of State, was dissing the ICC because the ICC, the International Criminal Court, actually issued arrest warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israel's welfare queen. And now he is sitting there saying, quote unquote, Israel must weigh incremental gains with unintended horrific consequences of military action in Gaza. This comes after President Biden, just in Morehouse College last week, talked about a ceasefire. And again, I have to ask this question because somebody explained to me because I'm lost. What do you have on the U.S. government to where the U.S. government, including President Biden's administration, doesn't go to Netanyahu and say, we're out, man? What is it? Because again, Netanyahu only does this because the U.S. backs him. Imagine if the U.S. did pull resources from Netanyahu in Israel in the middle of the Middle East. Woo, it's cold out there by yourself. But for some odd reason, even with the strikes, unintended and unnecessary and unprovoked by Israel, the U.S. seems to still back them. And I, for one, cannot understand why. Outside of the fact that, again, with the protests happening on different colleges, Biden himself is sitting there calling for a ceasefire, but Netanyahu's not listening. All I can sit there and say, sir, is what is it going to take to literally and figuratively make him listen outside, make Netanyahu listen outside of the fairly obvious? Pull support, pull troops. Israel will fold like a lawn chair. But again, I digress. But speaking of President Biden and, of course, Madam Vice President, they are on the campaign trail. Why? Because they're trying to get the black vote. Yeah.
The Biden administration will be launching its black voter outreach program as it looks to try to shore up softening support among black voters. President Biden and Vice President Harris will be in Philadelphia today for a rally to launch the program. The campaign says the rally will be held at a boarding school with mostly black students. Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris will be joined by black leaders, including elected officials, HBCU presidents, and organization leaders. Well, Democrats will also be doing something different this year to try to make sure that Mr.
So we're going to stop it right there because they're talking about the virtual nomination, in which they can do by campaign laws, but it's going to piss off Ohio. But anyway, I've been talking about this for now going on a year and a half. Here's where Biden's going to have the issue. Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris are going to have the issue with the black vote. You're going to have a hard time reaching the black vote, especially black men, basically because you, for lack of better words, haven't really done a lot for black people. I mean, sure, you've managed to get Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court, the first black woman on the Supreme Court. Thank you for that. Yeah, you've managed to kind of get the economy back to some point, but yet you seem a little bit disassociated with reality and thinking that even though jobs are open, inflation is still up, and people have money, you seem to be a little bit on the other side of reality called make-believe. At the same time, a lot of things that black people have been asking for have been gutted under your watch. DEI, affirmative action, part of that leading to college entrance exams, so it actually led to the killing of DEI of positions and programs because Republicans have ran with it. You sat there with your stalemate when you wanted to go progressive, which you actually were pushing forward measures that included Black people stop, because two of your Democratic senators who are really Republicans halted the whole situation and you didn't push forward. You also, sir, when it came to the fact of what you have, and I hate to say this, because when it comes to black voters, they are going to ask what has been done for them that people keep coming by for their votes. Now, again, this has mostly been Democrats, because let's be honest, Trump doesn't really go for Black people without him saying, "Where's my favorite Black person at? Where's my darkie? Where's my colored person? Oh, hey, there's Tim Scott. There's my favorite Black person." That's how the GOP sees us as Black voters. Democrats do have a wonderful opportunity here. But the thing about this is the fact that you do have to appeal to Black voters. And how do you do that? Well, you have to talk about the issues. You have to talk about the problems. You have to talk about the things that we need, that we should have had in yesterday. Like, for example, not to point out the COVID-19 Asian hate bill, when Asian Americans were attacked, how quickly they got a bill together to make it a felony during a COVID-19 attack. Yet it took what, lynching almost 65 years? It took us almost 65 years. I say roundabout. I don't know if it's roughly. And correct me. And if you know the exact year, if you know the exact time, please correct me. But it took us well over half a century to make lynching a federal hate crime. Think about that. Lynching has only been associated with one group of people out there. At the same time, we have been asking for lynching to be a federal hate crime. We have been asking for law enforcement quantitative immunity be removed. We have been asking for chokeholds to be banned. And we were going to have all that. And yet, whenever it comes to Black people, it doesn't seem to come to fruition. Again, the current president and his vice president are going to have a hard time getting Black men to vote because, strangely enough, and I know Trump loves the ill-educated, and I hate to say this about my own people, but there are some Black folks out there that do believe they did better under Trump. And I've been saying this since the inception of this podcast. The only people that really did thrive under Trump either was rich people or corporations, because the tax breaks now are benefiting them and screwing everybody else over. But again, this is the reason why I keep saying President Biden, unless he's figured something out, is going to have a hard time reaching Black voters, because right now, outside of minorities such as Black people, women make up the biggest amount of voters, because if you don't think they're going to be voting at the polls after what happened to them, last couple of years, you are sorely misguided. But again, we'll follow that as it goes along. But speaking of law enforcement, I have been saying this the entire time about law enforcement. I do believe law enforcement does need a reform. I do believe that law enforcement needs to be trained. There needs to be special screenings, and there needs to be mental awareness training. What I mean by that is what's actually going to be shown in the next video.
Mental health crisis, and I ended up calling the police. When they arrived, they had acknowledged that this was a mental health crisis. Despite this, they proceeded to place him face down on the floor, handcuff his hands behind his back, cross his legs and push them against him, and kneel on the back of his neck and back. His last words were, "Please don't kill me, please don't kill me."
CIT programs at their core are community collaborations that involve mental health services, advocacy, law enforcement, and the community at large. Those programs bring together those partners and conduct training for law enforcement officers to learn more about mental health issues, to learn about the lived experience of those with mental health issues, including those that are diagnosed, and their family members who are a part of their journey.
We are not there to arrest them, to give them a ticket. We are there merely as you called 911, we respond, because that's what police do. Police fire, we respond. But when we realize that it's not a police matter, then if we're not already there, they can, the officer that's there can call us, we respond, and it's a better handoff. It's a warm handoff to a clinician that we can have speak with the person, as opposed to, the police just saying, well, there's nothing we can do. We try to direct people to the resources. We're the police. We have a job to do in that regard, to serve and protect. And just because someone doesn't need to go to jail or be ticketed doesn't mean we just walk away. Through April of this year, we've had contact with almost 6,000 people since the inception of the program in 2018. So of that almost 6,000, we've only had to arrest or ticket approximately about 100, just over 100 folks.
That is the main goal, is we want people that are going through a mental health crisis to be connected to care, to hopefully prevent another crisis in the future, and also to make sure that they're not unnecessarily being entangled into the local criminal justice systems.
Crazy, isn't it? And it's amazing when you think about it, guys, is the fact that you literally, and again, I'm not the only one that said this, law enforcement can benefit. And I know I'm usually the one that says F the police. I'm one of the first ones that usually say it. But I say that because the current law enforcement that we have right now is nothing more than nothing more than all the officers that are looking to use lethal force. They can have all the non-lethal backup and things around them, but they are trained to shoot first and ask questions later. But imagine with mental health, crisis happening. I mean, not just happening to the Black folks, but everybody. But unless it affects Tapkins, it's a crisis. But what I'm getting at is, if we are able to train our law enforcement better to understand, to recognize, and adapt to a mental health crisis, then not everything will turn into a fatality later. That's the point I'm getting at. And with that also being said, we have seen now, just with that simple program in one location, they saw a major reduction in arrests. Now, granted, there could be some situations where arrests are just inevitable. I get that. I understand that. But there's sometimes when there's a mental health crisis, it doesn't involve law enforcement. It just may involve getting the individual the help that they need. At the same time, imagine if that program was actually nationwide. Again, I keep saying, if we better train our officers, if we better screen for the right time enforcement officers, we give them the tools and things that they need to actually do more than just stop and shoot, things will go down. And who knows, you might actually get Black people to trust you. Almost. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story because Harrison Butker. I talked about this guy just because he did a certain speech at a certain Catholic college where he pretty much told the women, you'll be happy as homemakers. And again, that's been going on. We cover what Fox News said about it because Fox News tried to spin it as an attack on religion. And of course, all the pseudo-Christians believe out there that everything is an attack on them and their way of life, and that they should fight back, and that they should be unashamed of their opinions. And I've said it all the time. You can be a Harrison Butker all you want to, but your religion is not under fire. You can say, again, our country allows you to say whatever it is that you want to say. It does not absolve you from the consequences of the words that you say and the impact that it has on others. Just like you could have an opinion, guess what? Others can have an opinion about you, but you can't cry victim when you're the one that sat there and decided that, hey, I'm going to say something and it's going to be so profound in my head that people should go along with it. Instead of actually getting chastised like he should has, especially here in the South, unfortunately in my home state of Tennessee, especially here in Nashville, this dick got an award.
The theme for tonight's gala, Courage Under Fire, was decided many months ago, but it now feels providential that this would be the theme after what we have all witnessed these past 2 weeks. If it wasn't clear that the timeless Catholic values are hated by many, it is now. Over the past few days, my beliefs, or what people think I believe, have been the focus of countless discussions around the globe. At the outset, Many people expressed a shocking level of hate, but as the days went on, even those who disagreed with my viewpoints shared their support for my freedom of religion. In my 7 years in the NFL, I've become familiar with the positive and negative comments, but the majority of them revolve around my performance on the field. But as to be expected, the more I've talked about what I value most, which is my Catholic faith, the more polarizing I have become. It's a decision I've consciously made and one I do not regret at all. If we have truth and charity, we should trust in the Lord's providence and let the Holy Ghost do the rest of the work.
Okay, so again, I have to say this. So this pendejo, who, again, if you haven't seen his speech, it's still up there at Benedictine College if you want to watch it to full entirety, because the folks on Fox News say that, well, I watched the whole thing and not just that 2-minute parts, and I was inspired. Of course you're inspired by Fox News. You're a joke of a network. I mean, you guys aren't really real news network. Dominion proved that one. The thing I'm getting at is he and others, and again, I will point this out. I say pseudo, and I don't throw Christians, but the word Christian gets thrown around a lot. But those of that religious faith that believe there's a war on religion, they believe that their ideals, their way of life, how they believe, it's all under attack. I'm being oppressed because I want to show my faith. Nobody's stopping you. And that's what I don't get about Harrison, about guys like him. Guys like him and women like him completely annoy me. And I say this because nobody is talking about your faith. But you were speaking at a commencement for college graduates, and you specifically told the woman that the greatest role that you could have is a homemaker. These women have paid money for education, have through blood, sweat, and tears gotten their degrees, looking forward to being their careers. And you, for a person whose claim to fame is field goal kicking, not very good at that, I mind you, you're going to stand and tell them that the greatest thing they can be is homemakers. And yet you wonder why people are coming after you. Because again, you have the right, Mr. Butker, to say whatever it is you want to say. The thing about it is, when you say something, you have to expect a reaction. Just like tonight, if I sat there and said anybody that watches Fox News is an idiot who's devoid of brain cells, anybody who votes Republican shoots themselves in the foot, anybody who says they're not racist but really are racist because they follow black people everywhere and pretty much make fun of all our euphemisms and believe in every stereotype that's been seen. Now, I just sat there and said 3 different things. And of course, I will stand on everything that I've said. But at the same time, when people come back to me and say, "No, Will, you know what you are? You're one of those liberal. You're one of those people on Democratic plantation. You're one of those people Candace Owens talked about. You're not really from Tennessee. You don't have an accent. Why should I listen to you? Why don't you go back to where you came from? You don't like it." I have to expect that. Because as much as I've aired out my opinions, guess what they're going to do? Air out theirs. And Mr. Butker, when he heard that, all of a sudden cried foul. He did what every pseudo-Christian does. Goes back to their echo chamber and decides to rebuke and say, our religion, our faith is under attack. No, it's not. The fact is you were being a dick toward women and you got called out for it. So I'm going to say the one thing, Mr. Butker, to you that should have been said to you from Jump Street. Shut up and kick the ball. Pretty much of that. But anyway, coming back to this case, guys, remember we talked about last week of the police officer that basically in an unmarked car ran over a suspect and killed him? Well, so far, he's been brought up on charges.
Sterling, get your hands in the air right now!
Tonight, a Michigan State Police detective sergeant is facing a murder charge in the death of 25-year-old Samuel Sterling.
We have found that Detective Sergeant Keeley's actions that day were legally, grossly negligent, and created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, which could have otherwise been prevented.
Michigan Attorney General Dana Nestle's office filed charges against 50-year-old Brian Keeley for second-degree murder and 1 charge of involuntary manslaughter. Police video shows an unmarked SUV driven by Keeley hit Samuel Sterling as he ran from officers last month in Kentwood. You can hear Sterling crying out in pain and officers telling him to lie still and breathe while EMTs were on their way. Sterling was taken to the hospital where he later died. Police say Sterling was wanted on multiple felony warrants that day when officers approached him. Attorney Mark Curtis, representing the 25-year veteran of the Michigan State Police, says Nessel has, quote, chosen to ignore the facts of this incident and rely on political pressure. He went on to say the loss of Sterling's life is tragic, but, quote, this accident could have also been avoided if Mr. Sterling would have simply complied with the commands of the detectives. The Sterling family's attorney says the AG's office got it right.
The officer in that case clearly used a police car as a deadly weapon, knowing full well that Samuel was right there, and by steering right into him, by going up and over a curb onto a sidewalk to try to cut him off, he knew that he certainly could hit him. Some would say that he intentionally hit him, which it looks like to me on the film, on the video. So absolutely, these charges are merited.
41 days after losing her son, Andrika Cage received the news she had been waiting for.
So again, I always love how, of course, they're the attorney for the accused. They have to do their job. And the first thing that's always been done whenever it comes to law enforcement and, of course, killing a minority, you have to discredit the accused, or I should say in this case, the deceased. Why? Because character assassination. Had Mr. Sterling actually complied with the officers, then that officer would have never felt the need to run him over with the car. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that sounded great in his head when he said it. That's why he had to redo it. But let's be honest. We've seen this before, and I admit this. We shouldn't always get excited whenever we see law enforcement, actually officers being held accountable, especially being charged with second-degree murder. However, this one is pretty much cut and dry. The officer did use his car to run somebody over. It doesn't get any more clear and dry than that. He did run Mr. Sterling over. So as he is brought up on second-degree murder charges, we will follow this. I'm going to be honest, it'll be surprising on whether or not that he is being indicted and he will be found guilty. But again, it's always funny with law enforcement officers because they have this level of, well, have the suspect complied. We've got cases where they complied. Have the suspect ran. We've got cases where the suspect ran and didn't run. The outcome is still the same. Why is this? It's amazing to me that when it comes to self-control and the fact of use of force, why is it more dependent upon the victim to exert more self-control than the officer behind the wheel or behind the end of a gun? Make that make sense. But speaking of things that don't make sense, I do got to talk about my home state of Tennessee. Why? Because it's progressively backwards and ran by a bunch of idiots outside of a few people just trying to do some good. The idiot, mind you, I told you, is Governor Bill Lee himself, which, again, forgive me what I'm about to say, guys, because it is going to be on the Law and Order SVU side of things. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, Bill Lee just signed a bill into law, which they call abortion trafficking. Hear me out on this one, because they're saying abortion trafficking bill for minors. So the bill in case that he is talking about, guys, that was just signed into law, which will take effect July 1st. Basically, who is pregnant, if adult or anyone else tries to assist them in getting an abortion, they could be brought up on felony charges. Yes, I wish I could make that up. And I take it back. I'm sorry, not felony charges. It's a Class A misdemeanor offense, which can months to 29 days in prison. But it is amazing to me. Think about this for a second. Under this measure, a person who helps, and I'm going to read this word for word. Under the measure, a person who helps a minor obtain an abortion or abortion-inducing drugs without consent from the minor's parent could be sued for money damages by the minor, by the minor's parents, or the biological father. You know what that pretty much says? It makes no sense, because I keep saying only in the South, where the state's the reddest, where women find themselves currently under attack because for some odd reason, a group of old white men and some self-deluded women believe that women should basically be like in The Handmaid's Tale and treated like broodmares whenever it comes to their own bodies. Which again, here we're pro-choice. A woman can do whatever she wants to do with her body, and it's not our effing business. But it is amazing to me that a lot of Republican-led states, because what has happened is, keep in mind, Roe versus Wade, unfortunately, been struck down. A lot of Republican states have introduced abortion laws that retroactively kicked in at the time of that Supreme Court decision being knocked down, which means a lot of states, including Tennessee, have outlawed abortion. That also being said, however, women have had to either go to a state where abortion is legal and, be able to get services needed to them, or they've tried to get the abortion pill through the mail, which again is still possible to do. But at the same time, a lot of states are trying to ensure that abortion, no matter how they do it, unless you got pregnant by a Republican senator, then it's God's will, and then they make sure to take care of it. But it is amazing to me that they are making sure they're taking every measure they can to prevent a woman from just exercising her right to be a responsible adult. And even in this state of Tennessee, where again, Bill Lee is an effing idiot, and yes, I will say it to his face if ever given to the chance, but it is amazing to me that with that simple measure is going to prevent a lot of women from getting the help they need, or again, thinking of other ways that might be dangerous to them, just because they just don't want to be parents. And let me stress this out to you: it's okay if you don't want to be a parent. And if you get pregnant, I honestly believe that if a woman gets pregnant and decides she doesn't want to be a mother, that is the most responsible thing you can do, outside the very selfish thing of bringing that child into the world and dropping off into an orphanage, in which that orphanage makes, which orphanages these days and other areas that carry children are busted at the seams. It always amazes me how the pro-birth and pro-life people always seem to care about the child, but always skip the orphanages, always skip child services, always skip foster parenting, always skip the children that are already here, because you believe that the unborn have to have a voice, but you'll ignore every other block on the side of the road. Nice. But again, as I said before, Governor Bill Lee is an idiot. I'm going to make that a meme somewhere. That also being said, guys, I did want to cover a few things on the business side because, again, Walmart, Target, and Amazon are cutting prices because they believe that inflation is too high and that pricing on a lot of their products is too high for the everyday consumer. So what they're doing, they're cutting prices on at least 1,500 items in various departments and stores among these retail giants. Don't get it twisted, folks. And I say this all the time because it's amazing they talk about inflation, because inflation in a state of inflation, in the economic situation, nobody wins. That's how it's supposed to be. Everybody's paying more for various items, for cars, for homes, gas, food, you name it. Everybody's paying high. Yet strangely, corporations are having paydays. Corporations are having rainy days. Amazon had a good fiscal quarter. Target had a good fiscal quarter. Amazon, Walgreens, Walmart, those very same 4 stores I just mentioned, along with countless others corporations, all have had great paydays. Why? Because it wasn't inflation. They raised the prices up on everything because they could. And at the same time, it was all about greed. So now what's happening? A lot of consumers out there are finding different ways of getting what they need. Does this hurt the bottom line? In some areas, yes. But now it's too great for them not to ignore. Because again, now that they made their profit, now it's about helping out their consumers, which again is kind of bullshit. But at the same time, they say, well, it's only because inflation, everything is high. No, you set the prices. It's the reason why I look at these oil companies and they sit there and say, well, the price of gas is high because, well, inflation. No, you set the prices. Oil companies set the prices on gas. It's never been the president. In the same sense that Walmart set the prices on many of its products, the same way that Amazon set the prices on a lot of its products, and they try to blame inflation. You can't blame inflation because inflation did not put the price hiker tool in your hand and say, run these numbers up, especially when a lot of these corporations have had paydays. So again, the whole thing about inflation, again, it's great that they're cutting down prices. I mean, the same sense that, we're seeing that Burger King and other fast food restaurants are now, trying to get value menus out because, again, nobody wants to pay damn near $20 for a burger and fry. So again, miss me with the inflation because all you're doing is driving up prices for profit. And inflation just sounds like a nice word to avoid accountability. That's all it is. But speaking of accountability, and I can't wait to talk about this one before, as we're getting toward the end to our feel good segment, the Negro League, for all those that don't know, the Negro League and its players and its stats will be incorporated into Major League Baseball. And as a person that's a fan of the Negro Leagues, I love it, but I cannot wait for the baseball purists out there, those napkins, to lose their mind, because once they realize that one individual stats get put in play, yeah, they're going to be mad.
Confirmed yesterday that Negro League stats will officially become a part of MLB's historical record. The move opens the door for 2,300 Negro League players to have their accomplishments recognized in the league's official database. And that means Josh Gibson, who is considered one of the best players of all time, will now lead multiple categories, including batting average and slugging percentage. Gibson actually moves ahead of Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth in those categories.
A lot of folks have long considered Gibson to be the best baseball player in history. So he's finally.
I can't wait. And again, it's rightly so. Josh Gibson, that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, arguably the greatest player to play the game of baseball. Once his stats get put in the MLB, let's just say it's going to tick off a lot of purists. And again, I'm not expecting them to come forward. I'm not expecting, they'll be in their secret Facebook and whatever chats, wherever dark corners of the basements they hide in. I can see it now. They're just putting that in there for political reasons. And Josh Gibson is not the best player of all time. I guarantee I can hear their whining now. But it's, again, the only reason the Negro Leagues existed because Major League Baseball did not include us. And now, just like history, which is kind of funny that we keep on coming back to that, you cannot ignore history. So it's great that the Negro Leagues statistics will be included in Major League Baseball, because they should. Because let's be honest, whenever we get into it, in the words of Paul Mooney, whenever we do get into a sport, we take over. And I certainly can't wait for NASCAR and golf to be looking a little bit darker. But that's just me. The last story we got, guys, before we get to our Feel Good News segment, it kind of shows you how much of a slow news day that it is. You ever heard the phrase, repeating something and getting a different result is the definition of insanity? Yeah. Enter Titanic.
Uber wealthy Americans are making plans to travel to the Titanic wreckage nearly 1 year after the deadly implosion of OceanGate's Titan submersible, which killed all 5 on board attempting to make the journey nearly 13,000 feet below the surface. Billionaire Larry Connor and Patrick Leahy, the founder of Triton Submarines, plan to make a new voyage in a $20 million vessel. Connor reached out to Leahy just days after the Titan implosion, telling the Wall Street Journal, "I want to show people worldwide that while the ocean is extremely powerful, it can be wonderful and enjoyable and really kind of life-changing if you go about it the right way. Safety in the industry has been under intense scrutiny."
This is a rare opportunity for you to explore Titanic.
OceanGate CEO, who was also killed, often spoke about his sub defying industry standards.
I think it was General MacArthur said, "You're remembered for the rules you break." And, I've broken some rules to make this.
But since the tragedy, Triton and its European competitor have claimed that their subs are safer because they're classed, meaning they're certified as safe and up to code by a third party. Other billionaires have been intrigued by tourism into the deep sea. Business mogul Ray Dalio owns a 285-foot research boat, which has 2 submersibles attached. He and James Cameron, director of the Titanic movie, both have stake in Triton. Fascination with the Titanic continues far beyond submersibles. Australian billionaire Clive Palmer plans to build the Titanic 2, a replica expected to retrace the original ship's doomed voyage.
No word yet on when the Triton sub will set out for the Titanic wreck. As for the OceanGate implosion, several agencies, including the NTSB, are still investigating what went.
So let's think about something for a second here. Imagine that you are so well off in life that you decide that, you know what, I want to see the side of the Titanic. I'm perplexed, because here's my thing. If I'm well off in life, I'm not doing something that more than likely can kill me. For example, going down under the sea. I am happy seeing the water, dropping by the water, maybe getting in a boat, maybe fishing a little bit, but that's it. The only swimming I'm doing is in a pool, because I never want to reap the chance that I might come across Jaws one day. It's just imagine that you're so well off that you decide, after seeing what happened to a bunch of wealthy people who basically got impacted, or I should say implosion happened, and then, that's got to be a scary ass feeling. But then you yourself decide, I'll give it a shot. And again, this is wealthy. And I'm perplexed, because if you're wealthy, I would think that you're trying to do something for the betterment of man. I would like to think that you're doing something for the greater good. I don't like to think that you're just basically buying one expensive ass ticket to sit in a sardine can just to go underwater to see a failed ship. And on top of that, the guy who wants to build the Titanic an exact replica, maybe you want to just redo some design flaws. That's all I'm saying. At the same time, what is the fascination about death and destruction of large scale items that draws wealthy people? It's odd and weird. At the same time, good luck with that. Hopefully, it's probably gonna wind up being a movie directed by James Cameron anyway. But anyway, we're gonna go and move on to our feel good segment, because usually how the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes we use faith in humanity, but hey, it's hump day, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is Friday Eve, which will be Thursday, which I cannot believe I had to think about that. But we will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And I love finding these stories about not just educators who are just in the classroom, but outside the classroom, after school programs, because the impact they have on our youth, and this man is no exception.
Of Sunshine, Ika Jockey is in Detroit, about to surprise the creator of an academic and athletic after-school program that has a life-changing impact for kids. Good morning, Ike.
Hey, good morning, guys. Listen, I'm here at Downtown Boxing Gym with a group of incredible kids, and we're all here to surprise the head of this program, Kali Sweeney. Now, I'm whispering right now because he's literally on the other side of those doors. So, kids, let's get ready for the surprise, all right? Yeah. I'm gonna go get him. Kali Sweeney! Where you at, my man? Kali, what's going on, my man? How you doing? Listen, I know you thought these cameras were here filming a promotional video for your gym, but you're actually live on Good Morning America right now. All right, my man, good morning. Good morning. Listen, we've been filming you all morning because we want to show America how... Let's take a look at this program where boxing is the hook, but education is at its heart.
Kali is just a natural born leader, honestly. Kali is a motivator.
Kali means like literally everything to me.
Kali Sweeney, the man behind the Downtown Boxing Gym, has turned this special place into more than a gym.
And you've got doctors, engineers, physicists that have come out of this gym that otherwise may have not got out of high school.
A space designed to open a world of possibilities for Detroit's underprivileged youth. This after-school program doesn't stop at athletics, providing academic tutoring, mentorship, and a chance for students to see themselves in a new light.
Kali is really great at showing the kids you can do it too.
Beyond the boxing ring, a commercial kitchen for future chefs.
Today we are making our own DNA.
Science and engineering labs for STEM students, even a chicken coop.
Today we are finishing up the chicken fence.
With big benefits for students, the program boasting a 100% high school graduation rate.
Ever since I've been here, I've been a 4.0 student. And the gym really allowed me to grow myself as a person.
Sweeney, who faced his own challenges growing up in the Motor City, using that experience to bridge the gap and relate with the kids.
He embraces it. He embraces who he was, where he came from, and he pours all that into the kids.
It changed my life because I didn't really have anyone that would talk to me and who understood me, who's been like through some of the similar situations I've been through.
Through his grit and determination, Kali Sweeney is our ray of sunshine.
I love you, brother. Keep doing the same things that you're doing.
I don't know if I would be the person I am without what you've done.
You give with your heart, you give with your strength, and the larger Detroit community and this larger world is better for having you in our lives. Thank you. Thank you.
That right there, that's all you, man. I like that. That's all you, man. Listen, you clearly do so much for these students, and they're such an important part of this program, so much so that you call them the CEOs of this place.
Yes.
So what is it about these students that inspires you so much?
Just every day seeing them come here willing to be like to learn. They're here eager to learn, eager to come back and give back to their community. Everybody's buying into this this one community, and so this is emotional though. You know what I mean? This is the kids, they're my inspiration. They are the future CEOs. They are the leaders of tomorrow. And right now, a lot of these young people, they got a great start, and they're going to be leaders in this generation, not 20 million years down the line. They're going to generation. They right now leaders right now.
And the way that they are leaders are through education, right?
Yeah, education is the key to everything.
Follow me a little bit. You have to take a little slowly there, my man. You just have some knee surgery. My man over here trying to make you do a marathon. Now listen, we know that education is a huge part of these kids' future, and we know you have a STEAM lab here. Science, technology, engineering, I'll keep on coming, arts and math. Now, we know you've been gone for a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
You've been away. There's some magic that's been happening over here, right? A little hocus pocus, right?
Okay, I see what's going on.
We thought you needed a little upgrade. So,
okay.
Take a look.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Our friends at Gold Star Commercial got you a brand new STEAM lab. Come take a look at this, man. We got robotics, 3D printing, microscopes, everything you need to further these kids' education in the STEAM lab. Look at this right here.
Yeah.
A little different from what you saw last time, right? What do you think?
A lot different.
What do you think of everything?
I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, this is one of the places where, you know, our kids, they all opt into this. Our kids love this part of the program, and it was a pretty much an eye story. It was hard for me to look at. Even when we would bring people here, I wouldn't even walk in here because our kids really deserve the space for, you know, this is the most, they love this part of the thing. Yeah, and it wasn't up to par. And,
But you said it yourself. This is all about the kids.
Yeah.
So kids, why don't you come on out here?
What's going on?
They're all here, my man. They're all here for you, my man. Listen, Kali, I gotta tell you something. These kids, they feel so much pride being a part of downtown boxing gym. We wanted to give them something to wear that lets them know that they are a part of something special. And we know for years you've been trying to get them some varsity jackets.
Yeah.
Well, our buddies at Clotho, they're making that happen. That's why every single kid here is getting a downtown boxing gym varsity jacket. What do you think? It's gonna buzz, right? So you tell me, you see all this here, you see everybody here. What's going through your mind right now, man?
It's teamwork. This is teamwork. For something that we all believe in, which is our kids and our future. And I'm just proud to be a part of this journey. And it's a team. I mean, it's not a Kali thing, it's a we thing. As a global community, as our neighborhood community, we all came together for the same purpose, which is these young people right here. So that's the most important thing. It's not about me, it's about them and all of us working together for them.
Right. We are so happy for what you do in the community. We're going to keep partying here. Back to you guys in New York.
I love how you say that.
So again, that's just great. I love the fact that when you can actually see the impact that you actually have on individuals, especially kids, and not just kids, but adults altogether. So definitely want to give that man flowers because he deserves every bit of it. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here, guys. You can find me, of course, Black_Spartan615 on the socials. Like and follow, guys. I do cover a lot and talk about a lot and love talking about it with you. So definitely find me there. The link at the bottom of the page, I'll break that up a little bit bigger for you guys see. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, you can my link to that's YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack We Got Here, get bit off of this podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and follow, guys. Costs nothing. Takes a second to do it, but we simply cannot do this without you. So again, hope you guys actually do that. At the same time, guys, let me not forget about blurredstation.com. I cannot stop talking about this enough. This is the vehicle we should have been, but Tubi is owned by Fox, and we all know how we feel about Fox. But again, Tubi is owned by us, and again, it's where you can do the content, where you get your movies, your television, your comics, your anime, Pretty much everything in the world of Blurred and Nerd is going to be found here. And again, if you want to check it out, definitely go to blurredstation.com. Do me a favor. When you hit the Join Now button, please go to the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership and then select anybody down there, including myself, Black Spartan, as one of the Affinity members. We would certainly appreciate that. At the same time, guys, it is $10.99 a month. Yes, $10.99 a month. After 36 months of paying $10.99 a month, guys, you do have the ability to own a piece of Blur Station. At the same time, guys, again, it's where we ask for this table. We are at the same time you can join us. What I mean by that is, if you are a content creator, you do have the ability to actually come on here. But first, you must join Blur Station, and from there, you'll be able to reach out to those behind the curtain, and hopefully, your content will be there for the world to see. The content is yours to keep. The only thing they ask for is a bit of the distribution, and honestly, that's a better deal. It's actually not a bad deal if you think about it. But again, check out blurredstation.com. Again, guys, we'll be back here next Wednesday with news of the week that you can use. Again, I cannot stress this enough. We are in another election cycle, not just for the presidents. Anything that's going on in your hometown, in your local and state governments, get to know the candidates, pressure them, get them to answer the questions they need to ask. Because keep in mind, guys, these are the people that are going to be representing you. And Tennessee right now is learning that lesson about what happens when you don't vote. And if you don't think voting is important, look at Georgia. They will do everything they can to make sure that you can't vote, or your vote, or dismay you enough to that your vote doesn't matter when it obviously does. At the same time, guys, if you yourself feel like running, there's plenty of sites out there that can assist you on how you can run in your city or state if you choose to and make a difference. But above all else, remain informed. Again, guys, the last thing I'll say about how the Frack We Got Here is about being informed. We need to be informed because why? Because there are things out there that we can no longer put our heads in the sand about. We have to move forward. We have to be progressive. We have to start doing the things that need to be done. Because guess what? When we're progressive, things happen. We right wrongs from our past that should have been done in the first place. Like electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black woman to the U.S. Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman as a National Cybersecurity Director of the United States. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up by our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Again, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll all get through this. Peace.